Blog Talk Radio.
This is Progressive Conservatism, radio, therapy for the partisan soul, and I am Mark Radulich, your very own political shrink, for the next hour, bringing you all that valuable insight into what's going on in this ever-increasingly crazy world of ours. Before we jump in and get to all of the holiday happenings today on this show, let me give you the listener dial-in number. That's the number you call if you want to call in and give your opinion on whatever it is we're talking about here at Progressive Conservatism. You can bring in new topics. This is a live call-in show if you are actually listening at 12:30 today on a Sunday afternoon. The number here is 646-915-8862. You can also instant messenger me at 1976, that's MARKKIND 1976, using AOL Instant Messenger. You can hear the rebroadcast of this, or you can check out my articles at markradulich.com or progressiveconservatism.blogspot.com. There has to be a new way for me to get all this information out of there in one single shot and make it sound good. I guess you listen to people on the radio do this all the time, and they're giving out numbers, and they're trying to do it as quickly as possible. But it is a kind of lengthy and time-consuming process just to get all that information out there and make sure you're getting it in what makes sense. In any case, this is, first of all, happy holidays to everybody. This, of course, was the Thanksgiving holiday, Thanksgiving being Thursday, and, of course, the worst shopping day of the year, Black Friday, the next day. As we all know, if you've been living in this country long enough, the day after Thanksgiving is for some reason, is the day everybody decides they're going to go out and shop for Christmas, which is about a month later. And they say it's because that's when all the deals are, or they want to start getting the products before before they've completely gone off the shelves on Christmas. They're trying to get it all out of the way. They actually say these days that the holiday season starts around Halloween, a full 2 months before Christmas. There's an article I want to read you. It's interesting stuff. These are the totals. This was from ABC News, the money section. Black Friday sales up 6% from 2005. The nation's retailers had a strong start to the holiday shopping season, according to the results announced Saturday by a national research group that tracks sales at mall-based stores. They could be mall-based, one never knows, but they are, in fact, mall-based. One big exception was Walmart Stores Incorporated, which will make lots of liberals happy, which said it expects to report same-store sales in November below its already lackluster forecast. Yeah, apparently Walmart not doing as good as they used to, at least in America. According to ShopperTrack RCT Corp., which tracks total sales at more than 45,000 mall-based retail outlets, total sales rose 6% to $8.96 billion on Friday, the start of the holiday shopping season compared to the same day a year ago. Although we anticipated a solid consumer turnout for Black Friday, this data shows an even larger increase than expected as consumers proved they were willing to spend, said Bill Martin, co-founder of ShopperTrack, in a statement. Walmart, however, estimated it will post a 0.1% decline in same-store sales, or sales at stores opened at least a year in November. That's slightly below its original projections for flat sales for the month compared to the year-ago period. The results cover the 4-week period that ended through Friday. Same-store sales are considered a key indicator of a retailer's health. JCPenney's said, this is where I buy my pants, and mostly most of my clothing, mind you, because I'm just stylish like that. JCPenney's said in a separate statement released Saturday that the holiday shopping season was off to a good start. Well, that's good. Words. Not much of anything else. Apparently there was another article saying that Walmart.com just blew up on Black Friday couldn't handle the traffic, as it were. Apparently the same thing somewhat happened to Amazon. Part of the article had said that the possibility of purchasing one of 1,000 Microsoft Xbox 360 core consoles for $100 caused Amazon.com to slow down around 11 a.m. yesterday, and this was as of November 26th. So that's Black Friday. I'm going to bring in now a guy who himself has worked in the retail industry, knows a lot about Black Friday, having lived through it in the last couple of years. My good friend, Reverend John. Are you there, John?
I am here.
Black Friday, man. What about it?
I'll be honest with you, it doesn't really matter much to me when I don't work in the mall because I do all my shopping online.
I'll tell you what. Here's part of my problem with the whole holiday shopping thing.
You don't like buying things for people other than yourself?
No, shut up, John. So you're going to get me in trouble with my wife. Number one, with comments like that. And number two, my problem is, look, I was having a conversation with actually my wife's boss while I was waiting for her. And we were talking about how this is actually on Black Friday. And we're talking about how people, and we've had this conversation before, about how people have just kind of lost the whole spirit of Christmas sort of thing. You know, and it seems like it's more about buying presents for people or receiving presents than it is about celebrating any aspect of Christianity whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I would have said, you know, the birth of Christ, but then there's that whole thing, he wasn't really born on that day, ha ha ha, you know, and I don't want to get into that. The point of it is that it is supposed to be a somewhat religious holiday, and the whole thing about it is you're supposed to be giving in nature. You're supposed to, you know, reflect on good fortune, not kill somebody in line to get the new PlayStation 3.
Yeah, because even I think, you know, it's less about the religious aspects of it and just more about the, you know, appreciating your family and doing nice things to people aspects.
And the thing of it is I don't see a whole, just my general interactions with people, as we travel down the information superhighway, as it was dubbed, and we go further and further into the digital age, people are less inclined to want to be around other people. So it's like, you know, we get around Christmas, like, I got to buy. No one actually wants to be around the people they're buying for. You know, a lot of sitting behind the computer screen or being as far removed from people as possible. And I guess what I mean by that is, if you talk to both my wife and I's friends and coworkers and whatnot, everyone kind of has the same kind of, I don't want to be around anybody. You know, for whatever the reasons are, I don't see the same kind of enthusiasm for being around, you know, friends and family like I believe there once was when I was a kid. You know, it just seems like it's more of a hassle. But yet there's this huge push to buy things. Let me add to that. All year long, these same people, you know, you have varying amounts of issues with, and then it gets to Christmas and it's like, no, those issues didn't go away, and you still feel the same way about those people. But you're online buying gifts because of an image thing. You follow what I'm saying, John?
A little bit, yeah.
And I don't know. For me, I've always felt that, you know, it's more important, you know, that you spend time with people during the holidays that you really want to be with. If you don't really want to spend time with them, you shouldn't feel compelled to go out and run and, you know, and buy gifts because you don't want anything badly of you. I mean, there just seems to be a facade of fakery around this time of year, and it just exacerbates the problems on Black Friday, where everyone's competing to do X, Y, Z to save their own image, and nobody actually wants to be doing this. Did I completely lose you, John?
Not completely. I definitely agree about the image issue. I personally don't understand why anyone would want to go shopping on Black Friday in the first place, because all of these great sales, they're usually on items that will be sold out by 10 o'clock in the morning. And, well, granted, like, I mean, the difference is, like, you know, prior to shopping online, I would pick one Sunday when I did my Christmas shopping where I would get there when the mall would be open, and I'd be out in an hour. And I wasn't so much going to compete for great sales as much as it was I didn't feel like having to deal with the obnoxious Christmas shoppers.
See, whenever I had to go shopping for people before, the wonder and beauty of internet shopping and Amazon wish lists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of did. I never went shopping on Black Friday. I've worked enough Black Fridays, in college and in high school that I wouldn't want to go near a mall on Black Friday. In fact, I was telling people this past Friday that, save a few personal requests from my wife, it was against my religion to be in a mall on Black Friday.
And I always found Black Friday to be overrated as it was.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be preparing for hell, and you'd be preparing for things getting, overly busy, and you're not going to be able to, relax. And, it would just be like a busy day. I mean, the actual busiest days is like the last Saturday and Sunday before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
That's when all hell breaks loose.
Yes, that's
literally.
The late shoppers and whatnot.
Yeah.
Trying to, I don't know. The thing of it is, and my wife will actually do this, if she sees something during the year, I mean, this would be August, and she's like, you know what, that would make a nice Christmas present for somebody. She'll actually know how maybe she'll give it to them beforehand. But overall, all year long, she's making an effort to remember people. I mean, my wife genuinely will think about what she can do for other people on the holidays, to be a good person, because it makes her feel good, it makes them feel good, and it's sort of a positive experience. What people are doing, where they're waiting until like the very last minute, is beyond me.
Yeah, it's just, especially with the internet, there's really no reason for it.
Now, I think 2 years ago, my shopping consisted of me turning on my computer and trying to figure out what I should buy my friends off of Amazon. It was funny. I was talking to one friend about it, and I said, okay, send me your wish list. And he was like, no, I'm not sending you my wish list. You should be able to come up with this on your own.
Oh, I hate people like that. Listen, you know what you want. Just tell me.
This doesn't work with my wife either. I have to figure out what she wants too. She'll tell me. But then there's the tell me category of things I need to pick from, and then there's the figure it out category. So I lose both ways.
Yeah, and then whatever you figure out, it's never the right thing.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes you may actually nail it.
It is rare.
It is rare. It is difficult. I'll tell you that much. But yeah, a couple of Christmases ago, a few of my friends and I, we were just exchanging Amazon wish lists, and everyone was happy. And this to me sums it all up. The same friend says, Christmas is not about what you want. It's about what I think I should get you. And he ended up getting me a nice gift and all. I'm not disparaging that. Mm-hmm. But his attitude was essentially, no, I'll pick what you need.
Yeah.
This is the gift-giving time. I'll figure out what you need, and I'll give it to you.
I mean, that's the very reason why I hate getting gifts in the first place, because if that's the case, just don't get me anything. I would be happier if you just didn't get me anything and just said Merry Christmas,
I'd be happy if anyone said Merry Christmas these days.
Yeah, how's your year been? As opposed to getting me something that you like, you could care less if I like, and I've got to sit there and pretend to be happy about it.
Mm-hmm. The whole gift-giving thing, to me, it's nice to receive gifts and all, but I think if I had to choose between someone giving me a gift and someone acting like a human being all year, I would gladly take the latter than the former and buy my own books.
Exactly. That's kind of where I'm at, because a lot of the times I can't think of anything that I need or even want anymore, because, if I want it that badly, I'll just get it myself.
That's the thing. I think it works when you're a kid because you don't have access to money. Yeah. It works when, your parents are the ones with the income, and you're just a child, and you don't have any other responsibilities other than to play and go to school.
Well, yeah, I don't know. When I was a kid, I would spend the Thanksgiving parade with all of the wish list catalogs out, and a 100-page spiral notebook.
Do you remember the service merchandise catalog?
Oh, the service merchandise catalog.
Oh man, I used to go over that thing over and over and over again, and I would look at it like like all the new remote control cars and toys and this. I would just pay attention to how they were poised on the page.
I would read it at night before I went to bed.
See, I'm going to divert from you there. My dad or myself, I was reading Sweet Pickles. You were reading the service merchandise catalog.
Well, not just that. The J.C. Penney catalog, the Sears catalog, the Consumer's catalog. Oh, yeah. No, basically, my Christmas list as a kid would consist of one of every G.I. Joe and one of every Transformer.
No.
Literally, if I didn't have it yet, it went on the list.
There's a kid across the street from me that had like every single, and this makes my point perfectly. I lived across the street from a kid who had every single Transformers.
Oh, we all had that friend.
Had every single PlayStation, at the time it was, I think, a Genesis.
Okay.
This may have gone into the first PlayStation, but as long as I knew him, basically had all the new toys, had all, and he wasn't like tremendously wealthy, but I mean his parents made sure that his toy needs were met. I don't know if they ever spent any time with him.
Well, see, that's the thing. Is my friend like that. His parents, his were the first divorced parents that I knew of.
Mm-hmm.
So I think some spoiling came in, but one of every Star Wars, one of every Transformer, one of every He-Man, one of every. If it was a toy, he had it.
Mm-hmm.
Just slightly under Ricky from Silver Spoons. I mean, that's how much he had.
I remember I finally thought I'd gotten a Transformer before he got it.
Okay.
And then he told me, he was like, no, I already got that one and the other one. And I got so mad I kicked a hole in my wall.
Thankfully, you've calmed down a little bit since then.
And now today I'm a therapist who works with children.
who kicks a hole in the wall when they piss you off?
I don't kick any more holes in walls.
Okay.
I don't kick anything. But I think getting back to the whole Black Friday and the shopping experience, and I didn't realize this. I recently read a book by Kate Newlin. Kate Newlin, for those that don't know, is the principal owner of Kate Newlin Consulting, where she works with Fortune 100 and entrepreneurial firms. Prior to that, she was the president of Faith Popcorn. That's somebody's real name. Faith Popcorn's Brain Reserve, a trend-based marketing consulting firm. During her career, Newlin has consulted with scores of large and small companies, including Procter & Gamble, Kraft, Nabisco, Walden Books, Title IX Sports, Specialized Mountain Bikes, Johnson & Johnson, Weight Watchers, and Godiva Chocolate. She lives in New York City. She's also just written a new book, How to Be a Retail Revolutionary. The name of the book is called Shopportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And in the book, she talks about how, and I didn't think about it until I read the book, about how the shopping experience itself has been just completely devalued.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been devalued because instead of the joy of having the merchandise, people are so caught up in the best bargain.
Yeah.
So there's no hunt. I mean, between just flooding the marketplace with product and having big box stores and the dying out slowly of specialty stores and the birth of the big box retail, you can find everything in the kitchen sink type stores, which always reminds me of the Bugs Bunny cartoon where he's in the elevator and every floor it's like postcards, boxes, brigade, pillows, and just babbles on for 5 minutes about everything that's on that floor.
Yeah.
That's what they are. So if I'm looking for something, there is no hunt involved anymore. There's no, by comparison, when I used to live in New York, a friend of mine and I would periodically go record shopping. And record shopping was a big deal because we were looking for hard-to-find metal records, heavy metal,
or even
you can only get in specialty stores, and they weren't selling them, at least at the time, in the big boxes. And so there was the joy of making the trek all the way down to slip disc and, perusing through the thing and finding records and coming across things you would never have seen before, even if you weren't looking for them.
Yeah, or even Empire Records, where they had that huge used section, where you would just go to see what new used CDs came in that week.
Right.
I mean, sometimes it would be stuff you didn't realize you didn't have. Other times, it could only best be described that some of the local entrepreneurs would be stealing them from mass quantities from Tower Records and selling them to Empire Records, because they'd have like 10 CDs that were just released that Tuesday, all in the used bin, in the original shrink wrap, including that annoying sticky thing on the side that tells you what CD it is.
So you can find some really good jewels in the used CD stores.
Yeah.
So that's my point. I think there's two kinds of shopping experiences. There's the one where you can find real jewels out there. There's knowing that you have to go to one place or even different places. To try to find that one thing that you're looking for, and when you find it, voila, it's wonderful. It's actually a good. And I remember this even not too long ago, to finally have to hunt down something, and then I get it, and it's just a release. She actually describes it as something of almost a a narcotic reaction where there's just joy flowing through you once you finally found this thing. It's like doing drugs, at least the first time. Whereas anything that I think I need, I don't have to get up anymore. I can usually find it on the computer, and if I can't find it on the computer, or if I can't wait that long for it to ship to me, then I can just run over to Walmart. And she says that itself, in massive amounts throughout the country and probably throughout the world, has devalued the shopping experience.
But I also think what has also devalued the shopping experience is the people that you have to deal with when you go shopping.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because, I mean, speaking about music, because recently Tower Records just went out of business. And, it used to bother me when Tower would come in and some of the local CD shops would go out of business because, I mean, at least you can go there and you can go there for a couple hours and you can talk to people about music and find new CD. If you're buying a new CD, it may cost you like a couple extra dollars more, but wasn't that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. But now that you've got, big business being put out of business by bigger businesses, meh. Because once all the local stores get put out of business, I could either go to the store like Tower Records where the people are obnoxious, or go to Best Buy where the people are stupid. And since Best Buy,
I have had some interesting Best Buy experiences, and I like the store. And
since Best Buy has the cheaper CDs, I went there. I'm looking for a My Chemical Romance CD, which isn't that unrare of a band.
Yeah, but that's also your first problem. You're looking for a My Chemical Romance CD.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, the guy from Best Buy told me to go to Tower Records.
See, right there is a fundamental flaw in the American economy.
Yeah, or even
You're supposed to try to keep the business in the store and sell them more stuff.
Though my favorite is still Walmart, because I was looking for the Voltron DVD, because being a geek from the 80s, waited a long time for Voltron to finally be out on DVD. And I went to a couple of the stores, Best Buy, Circuit City, Tower. Everyone was just like, meh. One of my coworkers said that his brother saw it at Walmart over the weekend. So I went to my local Walmart. I didn't see it myself, so I asked the employee. It's like, oh, well, we don't know. It's like, well, can you look in the computer? No, well, because you see, vendors come in and put on our DVDs, so we don't know what we have in stock.
There's no compulsion to help the shopper.
No.
She mentions this in the book. She opens up with a woman buying a wedding dress, and a wedding dress, having been through this myself, not me buying the wedding dress, but when my wife was looking for her wedding dress, went through a very similar experience. And what she describes, and she describes as not just the wedding dress scenario, but in a few different shopping experiences, is where the person comes in and says, I want something like this, and then gives the description of what it is. And the salesperson says, you sit down, I'm going to go get it for you. Mm-hmm. And they go and they bring not just that, but a few ideas, and they bring things to match, other apparel, shoes, belts, what have you. And she was talking about this, and again, as a guy, it's a little hard to relate to this, mm-hmm. but I see where she's coming from. Genuine interest, authority, and expertise in trying to sell you something that you came in there for. It isn't like when you go into a place and you're like, oh, I'm just wasting time waiting for somebody, and they try to sell you something you didn't want, nor do you need.
Much like at Express.
Yeah, that's like that. It's you went in there with something and you got what you came for, and the person, showed you the way.
Yeah.
That's a positive shopping experience. I don't ever see that anymore. And I used to see it, like I said, in the specialty record stores. Mm-hmm. If I came in, I'm looking for the new Goat Whore. Goat Whore is a black metal band with a particularly, vulgar name. But if I said it to the guy there, he knew the band Goat Whore, knew 5 other bands that were just like them, and helped me. And I usually walked out of there with more records than I had anticipated buying.
You were looking for a band called...
Excuse me?
You were looking for a band called Goat Whore, and you're making fun of me for My Chemical Romance?
Goat Whore, by the way.
Goat Whore. Okay,
yeah.
That makes all the difference in the world.
Yes, it does.
Go back to your story.
But I usually got with it, we would talk music. We would talk about shows we've seen. And then, the guy was always considerably older than me. But we would talk about shows we've seen, bands we like. He would introduce me to stuff. I would talk to him about stuff. We really got off the topic of music, but at least I felt like the man earned my loyalty because of, again, you know, expertise, authority, and interest.
Well, yes,
He wasn't telling me to go down to Tower Records where I could buy the Goat. Where they may have the Goat Whore album, and it might be cheaper.
Yeah, they have the. That's the difference between the specialty stores and the mall. Because generally, if people are working in a specialty store, like a record store or especially a bridal boutique, they have a general interest in what they're doing. People work in the mall, they need a part-time job, and which is funny, which is great because when I used to work at Express, that genuine interest that your wife experienced when you bought her wedding dress, or you experienced when you went to go buy your Goat Whore CD.
Goat Whore.
They wanted to force us on.
The band's name was Goat Whore, John.
That's what I said. Goat Whore.
Yes, Goat Whore.
Goat Whore.
Go on.
Okay. That genuine interest from people who are actually like what they're doing. Express, limited brands, and I'm sure they're the department stores, were trying to force that on the employees and therefore force it on the customers because they think that's what people want.
Okay. We're gonna
but they want it to be genuine. They don't want it to be like, you know, at the minute you walk in the store, oh my God, can I help you? Here, take these. Take 5 pairs of pants. Go try them on.
Or a roll of the eyes. You know, I have to stop what I'm doing to talk to you. But listen, we're gonna break for a second. We're actually gonna take our first phone call of the hour.
Sweet.
And give me 1 second here. Hello, caller. You are on the air.
It's your wife.
How you doing, Robin?
Good. At work.
Are you listening to the show?
Yeah, I didn't hear what you guys were first talking about because I just turned it on. So.
We were talking about. Say hello to John, by the way.
Oh, hi, John.
Hi.
We were talking about Shopportunity and just the whole shopping experience, about how in certain situations it's been devalued. How much? I think when you turned in, we're talking about the differences between going into a store where
I got right at the wedding dress part, and then I'm like, okay, I have to call in because they're talking about me.
We were talking in general about how when a woman what was your experience picking out your wedding dress like?
You say you want a wedding gown, and there's something very specific you want. And they will bring you like 5 things, and they tend to bring you the most expensive thing first because they're making commission. Ultimately, I've noticed with retail today, it's all about making commission. They'll be nice as pie, just like my company wants me to do. They want me to make commission, help the patient, even though you're helping for other people. But basically, that's what she did. She's like, oh, well, here's this great gown. I'm like, it's really not for me. But I tried it on, and it looked really good. And then she proceeded not to show me anything else.
Well, how did you feel when you finally found the gown that you wanted?
I mean, all I tried on, I think I tried on the first one. The first ones we ended up getting, but there were 2 other ones that I asked her to try on. I personally think that unless they own their own business, they're not really happy at what they're doing.
You don't. So you would say, in general, whether it's the mall or a specialty store or what have you, most people today are less interested in helping the customer really find the item that they want than they are in either just making commission or killing that hour of their day.
Yeah, making commissions or doing sales goal.
What do you think, John?
I could agree as far as the mall goes. I mean, I know if I was making a commission off of something, I definitely have more interest. But I think when you come to the small specialty stores, I think people work there because they're at least interested in the topic.
Yeah,
I mean, if they're just there to get an employee discount, that's one thing. But there's at least a genuine interest there.
Yeah, I mean, the difference is they're privately owned. Anything that's owned by a large corporation, people don't care.
Well, I think that's the leading theme of this is as more mom-and-pop shops and specialty stores go out of business, they're eaten up by big boxes. You lose all of those things, including even the minute interest in just making a commission, and it's replaced with lethargy and the fact that the person has to be there in order to get a paycheck, but actually but does not care one lick if Walmart or JCPenney's or anyone else makes that sale. Which goes back to what you were saying, John, about why don't you just go to the other record store?
Well, the truth is it's driven by consumers, because if consumers are paying the lower prices, they're going to put up with it. Even though they might not like it, pull an attitude, they're still going to do it because they're getting a lower price.
Well, that takes us back to the premise of Shopportunity by Kate Newlin. This is what she says. Hey, if you keep listening to the show, Robin, but I'm going to hang up with you, okay?
It's okay, because I might get busy here.
Yes, you might get busy at work.
Yeah, right.
Bye. That takes us back to the premise of the book, where she was saying that if you tend to make a deal with the devil if you're going to shop at the places with the lowest prices, because you are going to sacrifice everything of value having to do with shopping.
Yeah.
And as I said before, there is something inherently valuable in the shopping experience, which again takes us back to Black Friday, because not only are you being hustled and shoved around in the mall, or even if you just go, no matter what store you go into, it doesn't have to be the mall.
Mm-hmm.
But any big box, any retail outlet, you're going to find people, except for like the most bizarre and obscure.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be jostled, and it's going to be a suck experience by itself, because people are just going to be inherently nasty on that day. Then on top of which, it's a race to the bottom to find the best deal on a PlayStation 3 for your kid, who's going to be bored with it in a year.
Yeah.
Because the next thing's going to come out. That's actually the third problem with the whole value of shopping thing. Is I love digital technology. I love my digital camera, my iPod, all three of them that I've had. I love the DVD player. I absolutely love my computer. I'm selling my CDs slowly but surely, because I've loaded them all onto the computer and onto my iPod, and God forbid I don't have a complete systems crash. I don't need the CDs anymore.
Exactly. It's just collecting stuff kind of lost its some of its flavor.
You know what killed it for me initially? It's been a slow process,
mm-hmm.
because even a few years ago, if you would say, why don't you sell your CDs, my argument was, well, if I have a systems crash and I lose everything, I don't care anymore.
Mark, a couple of years. Go ahead.
I don't care if I lose all my music. I can now go on Amazon. I mean, I bought the entire Overkill catalog for like $20.
Okay.
Because I bought all the stuff used.
I was going to say, a couple of years ago, your argument against selling CDs would probably include vulgarity and you throwing something at them.
Yes, usually without pants.
Usually throwing your pants.
But I'll tell you, I'm not interested. I'm just not interested anymore in collecting things for that reason. And what started it for me was, do you remember, were you collecting comics during the Spider-Man McFarlane era?
Maybe a little.
With the multiple covers. Do you remember this?
Oh, I remember that general area. And, I mean, for me, what killed it for me was the X-Men, where you would have... I would just really enjoy the X-Men titles, but forget about... I mean, the multiple covers were a problem, but you would also have like 15 or 16 different X stories. And it got to the point where you had all these different stories. None of them were very good.
Mm-hmm.
So I would buy the comic just because I needed to have every issue in the series, but I'd get bored 2 pages into it, flip through, look at the pictures, and then put it in my poly bag with the wooden board behind it.
I mean, and that was the thing. They used to do the crossover things, and the crossover things were an event back in like the heyday of comics.
Yeah.
Because there was rarely ever much crossover. Fantastic Four was over here, Spider-Man over here, Thor over here, and the only minor crossover was, say, of Captain America, who was also in the Avengers. Mm-hmm. Might do something. But overall, everyone kind of they had their own writing staff, their own artists, and everyone just kind of stayed on their own island.
Yeah.
And life was good. And then they did the Secret Wars 1 and 2, and that was good because the stories were excellent.
Yeah.
To this day, the Secret Wars miniseries is probably one of my favorites.
I never actually got into Secret Wars 2, but Secret Wars 1 was incredible.
Yeah, Secret Wars 1 was incredible. And Secret Wars 2, if you were a little bit older and you're a bit of a smarter kid, you could really enjoy it. I mean, the stuff with the Beyonder was, for those that don't know, the Beyonder was sort of a god character. And they just did a lot of, for comic books that deal mostly in action, because it's mostly a boy theme. It was a very, very philosophical thing. It was very deep for a comic book, at least.
Honestly, comics can be a lot more deep than people give them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
There are words, I've read words in comics that I've had to get a dictionary for.
That's what got me, as people that know me now know that I read about a book a week, but I wouldn't be reading as much as I do currently had it not been for comic books getting me started.
Yeah.
But the thing with comic books at the time was, like I said, they would do these limited crossovers, and they were events, and it was cool to do that. And then they did Acts of Vengeance, and they did something with the mutants. I don't remember what. But the point is they did this almost every year.
Every year they do something with the mutants.
Every year they would
agenda, the Extinction event, the Extinction stings. It's
the Extinction Walmart.
The Extinction Shoes.
The Extinction Flamethrower.
We extinct the ham sandwich.
In any case, the point we're making is they overdid it.
Yes.
And every time they did a crossover, just so people understand, you didn't. If you were just an X-Men buyer, you would have to buy all the other titles, and there were like a couple of dozen at the time, in order to get the whole story. And unfortunately, the way that they would write these things is you couldn't afford not to buy them, or you would miss elements of the story.
Yeah.
Oh God, I think it was Acts of Vengeance where they all switched villains. You know, like Spider-Man would fight the Fantastic Four villains, and the Fantastic Four villain would fight Daredevil and stuff like that. And they would tell you things in different comic books in order for you to follow the story. In any case, then they started doing multiple covers on top of that. And so instead of just buying the story and loving the story for what it was, and every month waiting, I remember the waiting. You know, they would leave you on a cliffhanger, and then, you know, you would wait that month for a new comic book to come out from that series, and what a treasured feeling it felt. And instead, it got replaced with 1,000,001 titles for one superhero. I mean, there were like 3 or 4 Spider-Man titles by the time I stopped collecting.
Yeah.
On top of which, it crossed over with every other title, of which there were 4 or 5 different denominations, on top of which there were like 8 covers for each one.
Yeah.
And they were all a collector's item.
Yeah, each one was going to be a collector's item that was going to, you know, make you money in the future, except for the fact that if you bought it on the stand at your local comic book store, chances are they was already overproduced and you weren't going to get any money off of it anyway. You know, I think I even still have some of the polybagged X-Men issue 1s from when they relaunched the X-Men series the first time.
Right.
I think if the issue was worth $1.95, I think it might be worth $2 now.
Right. So just to put the final touches on this whole value of shopping and collectors thing, it's hard to place a value on any tangible item anymore. When 1, it can be replaced with a few taps of the keys, and 2, the items themselves have been devalued. Comic books were just one example, but in all, I just don't care anymore. You know, I don't know if it's, like I said, a matter of growing up with the stuff being devalued. But I mean, and this is what I mean by I don't understand why people are running them off of this stuff. It's going to be devalued almost the minute you buy it. I think they said just in technology alone, the turnover rate is so quick now that a computer is, you know, the latest high-tech computer or PDA that you buy is out of date by the time you get it out of the box when you're at home.
Yeah.
But let's get to something that's different.
The
that's
N-word?
Not having to do with shopping and Black Friday and all that.
The N-word.
Yes, the N-word. John, the N-word. The N-word, you can't say it in public because then people get offended.
Yes,
the
that
N-word. Yes, the N-word. And, of course, we're talking about the N-word, and I'm going to be very provocative here, and I'm going to use the N-word on the air, and I don't care what people think about it. That N-word is Newt.
You know, there goes the radio show. You know, we were doing good for 3 weeks, but you just had to go throw it away because you had to go say Newt.
Newt.
You know,
Newt
don't
Gingrich,
you know that white people aren't allowed to say Newt in public?
Oh God, crazy white people in our racist ways saying Newt in public.
You know, especially ever since Katrina.
Let's not go there. Before we get into this topic, let's take another phone call really quick here. Hang on 1 second. Hello, caller. You are on the air.
Hi. I just want to say hi to Mark and Reverend John.
Hey, Bob.
Bob, what's shaking?
I'm not shaking. I'm in a big hurry to run out and go to the dog track today.
Oh yeah. Got any good ideas on who's lucky to win?
Well, I'm not going out to play on the dogs. I'm just protesting against the dog races.
You're protesting against the dog races?
Yeah, I think it's strictly for horses, not the dogs.
Really? Okay. What else you got on your agenda today, Bob?
Nothing much.
Nothing much?
Well, I'm going to let you go now because I'm in a hurry.
Okay. Thanks for calling in, Bob, checking in on us.
You got a nice show, and I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Bob.
Mark, let me know when we go live.
We are always live.
Oh, okay.
Why do you say that, John?
I have no idea.
Okay, then.
Get back to the N-word.
Yes, we're back to the N-word. I think I'm going to take calls like that. People should be plugging products. This is like a commercial.
Yes. Caller, are you there?
The N-word. This is actually from CNNmoney.com. And the reason we're talking about this is we are on the campaign trail for 2008. Nothing else matters at this point. As we said in the last two shows, 2007, Nancy Pelosi can have her way with Congress, but in 2008, starting in January, it is all about who's going to be the next president.
Mm-hmm.
And as it's less fun on the Democrat side. On the Republican side, the field is wide open. And so we have this article from CNNMoney.com about Gingrich in 2008, and it's entitled "The Stealth Candidate." The controversial former House Speaker seems to throw his hat in the ring as a GOP presidential candidate and promises that health care reform will be the big issue. An exclusive Fortune interview. Even a crisp Guinness Stout, can't chill the note of exasperation coming out of Newt Gingrich's mouth. You still don't get it, do you, he asks. The subject is the 2008 presidential race and whether the former Speaker of the House will run. The news is that Gingrich is running, but not on any official campaign trail. Let me say this about Newt, and the article is going to get into this in a little bit. The big theme coming out of the last rout the Republicans suffered was, aside from Iraq, which I'm not even going to bring up beyond mentioning just now, is that the Republicans lost because they were not acting like conservatives. They were Republicans trying to make peace with Democrats, Republicans acting like Democrats, Republicans who probably are Democrats. And what Newt is getting at here is the only way the Republicans are going to win in 2008 or any other election at this point is to get back to conservative values. And conservative values, contrary to my father's opinion, is not to turn back the hands of time, take away the right to vote from women, put blacks into slavery, and throw out modern medicine. I swear to God, he's actually said that to me. It is to look at what is important to conservatives rationally. Border, security, stem cell research in a way that makes sense. Not overspending in the budget. In some cases, not going into wars with with half the military you need. Those kinds of things. And so what Newt says here in the article is, the radical realist who defined conventional wisdom 12 years ago by stealing the House out from under the nose of entrenched Democrats now plans a surprise attack for the presidency. I'm going to tell you something, and whether or not it's plausible given the world you come out of is your problem, he tells Fortune. I am not running for president. I am seeking to create a movement to win the future by offering a series of solutions so compelling that if American people say I have to be president, it will happen. So he's running only without yet formally saying so, Gingrich spokesperson Rick Taylor had stated, which essentially is he's going to put all this information out there and start this group, which I'll tell you about in a second, and and if a draft Newt movement arises out of it, unlike Condoleezza Rice, he's not going to sit there and say, oh, no, like the vulture from the Bugs Bunny cartoons.
Yeah.
While other potential competitors like Arizona Senator John McCain, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, and Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney build staff and hire consultants, Gingrich revealed to Fortune that he plans to create a draft Newt wave by building grassroots support for his health care, which he worked on with Hillary about a year or so ago, national security, and energy independence ideas, all of which he has been peddling to corporate audiences over the past 6 years. Nice people, Gingrich says of his GOP competitors, but we're not in the same business. They're running for president. I'm running to change the country. Well, so far, this man's already got my vote.
Okay.
In December, and this is the meat of the article here, folks, in December, Gingrich will launch a 527 group called American Solutions for Winning the Future. Winning the Future, by the way, was the name of his book that he wrote last year.
Yes.
That will enable him to raise and spend unlimited money on behalf of this effort. In January, he will conduct a strategy meeting with advisors. By next fall, he'll decide whether to make a bid official, a late start by any recent historical standard. Yes, but if a man's actually got some ideas, and they're workable ideas, they're not, John Edwards, pie in the sky, wouldn't it be nice, but we don't have the money for that, or the strategy for that sort of thing, then he's really going to be coming to the table with what I think is a solid presidential bid that should make people get up and pay attention no matter what time he decides that he's going to actually throw his hat in the ring. It's a strategy that would be considered far-fetched if this were any other candidate, but Gingrich has to be taken seriously. Polls place him third in the GOP presidential nomination race, behind Giuliani and McCain. And a recent internal GOP poll recently put him second and ahead of McCain. Frankly, if he comes to the table with great ideas, I think he's got it over McCain hand over fist, just simply because he's an actual conservative, and McCain, you know, as the song once said about him, kind of goes both ways. Gingrich has routinely defied the odds, going from obscure backbench history professor to House Speaker. He then lost the post at the GOP's 1998 House losses and reinvented himself as a healthcare visionary praised by business and medical groups. There's really not much else here. John, what do you think of him starting up this 527 group?
It'll be interesting to see if it works.
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, they did something. There was a similar storyline on The West Wing, where you had the two candidates that were running neck and neck, but didn't have enough votes to get the nomination. Then a third guy came in with the draft Baker movement and mucked everything up. On the other hand, there's also the belief that he's just doing this to start collecting the more lecture circuit and book signing fees. You know,
all of this may be true, but again, you had Bill Clinton on the lecture circuit not that long ago, and all of that money, though they don't report it this way, is going to help his wife run for president.
But we'll see. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to get. I like following it, and I like having an idea who's running, but as far as the actual primary goes, by the time the Republican primary gets to New York, McCain will have already chosen Newt Gingrich as his running mate. So it's not like I have much to vote for.
Well, I'll tell you, the last couple of election cycles have annoyed me in that it's been about marketing, not about ideas, that the people running would make you promises. Again, I go to John Edwards on this, would make you insane promises for what it is they wanted to give you with no rationale or budget for how that was actually going to get done, which is what politicians do, and I understand that, which makes it hard to get excited about certain candidates beyond a general philosophy, which is where I've been stuck the last couple of elections. I don't vote for the Democrats or, for philosophical reasons, because nobody running has any good ideas. And it's just kind of vague promises. Excuse me. But if Gingrich actually comes to the table with solid ideas, and here's a pragmatist. Here's a guy that worked in the House. Here's the guy that, with the contract with America, offered not just ideas, but workable solutions. And if he can bring that kind of energy to a presidential race, I think people will tune into that versus McCain, who right now is perceived. The nice thing that people see about McCain is he's the best of both worlds. But what does McCain really want to do? What's he known for? He's known for campaign finance reform, which I think was an attack on free speech. He's known for, what else is he known for? Because that's all I can remember out of McCain, other than he's obstructed the president on certain things by being this bridge maker.
He's known for being the president's strongest supporter for the war, and being one of the few people who actually is pushing for more troops because he actually wants to win it. He's known for standing against the.
Yeah, but by the time 2008 rolls around, we're going to be out of Iraq. Yeah, he's the way we're going.
He's known for leading the Republicans to start looking more towards federal funding for embryonic stem cell research. He's known for cutting back some of the ridiculous pork products that our tax dollars are being spent to, like the $120 million to build a bridge in Alaska.
So let me stop you right there. The bridge to nowhere, right?
Yes.
If McCain gets on, which do you think would be? Because again, solid ideas are good, and this is what I'm pushing for. It's been sort of my whole theme since we got on this subject, and I think it's a winning strategy for any candidate to actually come up with real solutions. However, we do live in the TV world, and this still has to be marketed to an uneducated voting public. So which do you think is the sexier issue? If McCain comes at people with, no more bridges to nowhere, or Gingrich comes to people with, health care that's affordable and doesn't turn us into Moscow?
Put like that, Gingrich, but McCain still has time to work towards his health care, and he's also one of the Republicans who's starting to acknowledge the fact that yes, there is global warming, and we need to work towards more energy independence.
Well, both of them are. It'll be interesting because again, you may be right. McCain may say, well, McCain may offer the VP slot to Gingrich. Maybe Gingrich doesn't get past the fact that his name is Newt. And this is America, and people vote for presidents like they vote on American Idol. Which, as an aside, do people vote based on what they look like on American Idol, or do they actually vote on their singing ability?
Combination of both.
Which brings us back to the presidential race. You may actually have great ideas, but when your name is Newt, and it bothers me just having to say that out loud.
Which is why I never thought that Governor Huckabee would have a chance, because President Huckabee just doesn't. It just doesn't do it.
How about Sam Brownback? If Sam Brownback, kind of close to Brokeback Mountain.
I hope he runs. I really do. He'll be good for yucks.
I tell you, Sharpton was my favorite candidate because Dennis Kucinich was whiny and crazy. Al Sharpton was just crazy.
Yeah.
And he made the race so much fun.
He's crazy, but I mean, he also actually made points.
Mm-hmm.
Which is interesting when you're watching a debate between presidential candidates. Like, wow, the crazy guy is one of the few guys who's actually making a point.
I remember there was an article talking about like who tends to pal around each other on the during the debates, and how both Kucinich and Al Sharpton got ignored by everybody, and they ended up like hanging out together. They were essentially the dorky kids at lunch.
That's awesome.
Even Mosley Braun got greater acceptance by some of the mid-range candidates versus Dennis Kucinich and Al Sharpton.
That's awesome.
So we got 10 minutes here.
Okay.
Before the show ends. Been a good show so far. Anytime you get to talk about
shopping and politics.
Shopping and politics.
Oh, good.
That ought to bring them in. But I want to talk about something that I found this morning. This is actually part 2 of a very long report. This is from the Asia Times Online, atimes.com, and it's called The New World Oil Order, Part 2, Russia Tips the Balance, by W. Joseph Stroop. Russia has set the agenda for the global transition to an entirely new model of international energy security designed to address intensifying concerns, especially those rising east. Which, if you don't understand, that means Asia. Everything pretty much from Saudi Arabia to China.
Yes, if you don't understand it, look it up.
Russia possessing unequaled energy-based leverage. For those that don't know, it used to be one of the biggest suppliers of oil in the world, probably greater than Saudi Arabia once they can get to it. But Russia possessing unequaled energy-based leverage has taken the leadership among the world's producers and the rising powerhouse economies of the East to promote a vast worldwide web of alliances and ties, prominently featuring rigid bilateral private long-term supply contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, one more time.
Once more with feeling.
This model runs counter to and increasingly circumvents, and this is the meat of it, the established liberal U.S.-backed global oil market dominated in U.S. dollars. The West relies on the current order for its energy security. It cannot function without it, and therefore the order is its single point of weakness. And Russia is acting as the point man to locate and exploit, with the help of its partners, this Achilles heel of the West. So in other words, as man has done since the conception of civilization, the United States, not for evil purposes. I feel like every time I say this, I'm going to have some kid run through my living room in a no blood for oil, and throw something at me. But every government, from the history, in the history of man itself, has sought to control the resources to continue the development of said civilization. It used to be timber. First you start with land to grow food, then it was timber, then it was coal, and now it's oil.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would make sense for the United States, once the battery of the world economy and the largest capitalistic market in the world, it would make sense for them to want to control industry worldwide. It would make sense for them to want to control the resources, just as their forefathers have done with timber and coal.
Okay.
So this all makes sense.
Yes.
What Russia's trying to do now, though, is essentially push the U.S. dominance to the side by getting away from the way that they're controlling the oil now by doing these bilateral contracts. Increased nationalization of foreign oil fields. Basically, the governments take control of the oil, as opposed to the way we do things now, which is we allow natural resources to be exploited by private companies.
Okay.
You have national interest taking control of the oil and then deciding who they're going to sell it to, as opposed to just selling it on the open market. It's an interesting strategy for Russia. This goes on. A conspicuous feature of global developments over the past several years is Russia's distinctive leadership role in fueling global transition in three key spheres: energy, economic, and geopolitical. Within 6 months of taking office as Russia's new president, Vladimir Putin was, by the summer of 2000, already moving hard against the capitalist-inspired oligarchs who were fleecing Russia of its natural resources and industry with, at a bare minimum, the full complicity of the West. Western institutions operating within Russia and those exercising what the Kremlin saw as undue influence from without, most notably the West oil majors and their closely related financial institutions, certain non-governmental organizations and the media have eventually either been pushed out or brought to heel. Russia's strategic resources have been brought firmly under de facto Kremlin control in direct opposition to the West's loudly proclaimed liberal democratic principles of private ownership and control. Russia's example and success in such endeavors have instigated a global wave of nationalization and consolidation of state control over energy resources with an accompanying loss of leverage and control by the West oil majors. That wave is accelerating. I'll tell you, I'm very caught on this one. I have read numerous books, one of which by James S. Henry, The Blood Bankers, where they talk about the exploitation of natural resources such as water, and then charging people in just insane amounts of money for the water that they had access to before Western interests got in control. If you read The Blood Bankers by James S. Henry and read some of the chapters on Latin American countries, it really spells out how Western banks, both from Europe and America, just completely took advantage of the Third World and is selling them back their own water at exorbitant prices. This is why when they're doing it here with oil, I'm very caught, because I know that oil companies, starting with Rockefeller and Standard Oil, have just done awful things to this, addicting us to oil when electricity was widely available and cleaner. Again, a race to the bottom to make maximum profit, which is unfortunately one of the ills of capitalism. On the other hand, I don't want to necessarily root for the Russians to push the United States out of its dominance role, nor do I want to see increased nationalization, because it's usually one step towards socialism, which generally doesn't work for people. This goes on, and we're running out of time, so I want to finish this up really quick. The new model, as indicated above, in a throwback to the 1970s, the comparatively more rigid bilateral long-term supply contract is making a significant comeback on oil markets. As Putin explained at the July Group of 8 summit, we want to form a stable system of legal, political, economic relations that ensure a reliable demand and a stable offer of energy resources on the international market. So essentially what he's saying here is, rather than leave it to private industry to determine how much oil is on the market, he's putting on paper with China, India, several other nations that, Sudan is going to make X amount of oil available at this price, at a fair market value, and that's going to be it. It doesn't matter. The other factors don't matter that would normally come into play in a resource that gets to float freely in the marketplace. Let's close out here, John. What do you think of all this?
I agree.
A little better than that, John.
I agree with Mark.
There you go. All right, John. One last thing before we go. You read my thing on Happy Feet, right?
Yes.
I want to make this clear to people because I got a few comments on it.
From people who are dumb.
Excuse me?
From people who are dumb.
I've always said there was global warming. I have never disagreed with it. In fact, I've written many articles complaining about other conservatives who don't think global warming exists. I think these people are retarded. So it's not, my problem with the Happy Feet thing was not that to say that global warming didn't exist, but to essentially say that it's a cartoon meant for kids, and if I want to introduce my kids to an inconvenient truth, I had to take them to an inconvenient truth. Not to mention the fact that considering the amount of things that liberals get to complain about, when a conservative does it, I don't think the liberals should complain that the conservatives are complaining. That was really the gist of it. All right, we got 15 seconds here. John, what do you want to say going out?
I think you sound like a Bush apologist, and I want to go on for 3 more paragraphs about how liberals are cool and conservatives drool, even though it really doesn't make much of a point.
All right, John. We'll do it again next Sunday. Great broadcast.
Sounds beautiful. Talk to you next week.